Hello everyone, this is a recording for your lesson entitled Intonation, more precisely simple falling and rising tones. Before we start, we need to identify, clarify or define some important terms. We start with a tone. What is a tone? Which is a narrow term in our lesson. So a tone is a variation in the pitch or the quality of the voice while speaking. Another broader term, which is intonation, it is the umbrella term in our lesson. Intonation is the tone of the voice. When we speak, our voice may go down, it means it falls, or our voice goes up, that is, it rises. And this depends on our intention, our attitude, our feelings. I mean, it depends on what we want to say or express. You may ask where this intonation or this tone occurs in the sentence or in the utterance, in which words, in which syllable. Yes, the tone of any utterance occurs in one of the stressed syllables of the utterance. And this syllable is called the tonic syllable. The tonic syllable because it carries the tone of the sentence. This tonic syllable, as I said, is always one of the stressed syllables in the utterance. It is usually located on the last lexical word. I mean the last stressed syllable in a neutral utterance. By neutral utterance, I mean an utterance where we don't have an emphasis, we don't have an emphatic stress. Or in the syllable which is emphasized when we have an emphatic stress. I repeat, the tone of the utterance or of the sentence falls on what we call the tonic syllable. This tonic syllable in a neutral utterance, it is in the last lexical word. So the tone falls on the last lexical word. If we have an emphasis or an emphatic stress, the tone falls on that syllable which we have emphasized. So, types of tones. In this lesson, we are concerned with simple falling and rising tones. So, there are two main simple tones, the simple falling tones and the simple rising tones. We start with the first type, which is the simple falling tones. We have two falling tones. We have the low fall. The low fall is where the pitch movement of the voice or our voice goes from a mid-level, a medium level, to a very low level. The second type of the falling tones is called the high fall, where the pitch movement of the voice or our voice, simply our voice, goes from a high level, not a mid, from a high level to a very low level. The simple rising tones as well, we have two types in the rising tones. We have the low rise, where our voice goes from a very low level to a mid-level. However, the second type of the rising tones, which is called the high rise, and the high rise, the voice goes from a mid-level, a medium level, to a very high level. We move to the context in which those simple tones are used. It means you may ask, when do we use the simple falling tones and when do we use the simple rising tones? So we start with the simple falling tones. As I said, we have two falling tones. We start with the high fall. The high fall tone is used when we have special emphasis or excitement. So usually usually, it's not a fixed rule, but usually it is used when we have a special emphasis or excitement. However, the low fall, which is from mid to low level, is used in neutral statements. It means normal statements where we don't have any emphasis. It is also used in normal WH questions. We call them normal, ordinary. So normal WH questions. We use the low fall as well in orders or commands. And finally, we use the low fall in what we call the strong yes-no questions. I said strong, not normal. So those types of yes-no questions, they are similar to orders, as if they are orders in the form of a yes-no question. The form is yes-no question, but it is an order. That's why we call them strong yes-no questions. However, we use the simple rising tones, namely the high rise. We use the high rise in normal yes-no questions, in statements in form but question in intonation. What do we mean by that? It is a statement. The form is a statement, subject, verb, complement. But when we utter it, when we pronounce it like a question. That we use the intonation of a question. Also, we use the high rise in strong WH questions. I said strong, not normal. It's in strong WH questions. What do we mean by by strong WH questions? We mean when we ask for repetition, or maybe we are surprised. We ask for repetition because we didn't hear, or we are surprised. Those types of WH questions, they are called strong WH questions. However, we use the low rise in some contexts. They are in some statements to show uncertainty. Some statements where we want to show uncertainty, like asking for reassurance, like the desire to persuade someone, or maybe the listener may not be pleased to hear what is being said, or if the utterance or the statement is incomplete. When the statement is incomplete, at the end we use this tone, which is the low rise. We use the low rise as well in polite requests or polite questions. And finally, we use the low rise when we have lists of items, a list of items. So each item will take a tone. Now we move to identify or talk about the structure of the tone unit. By the tone unit, we mean the utterance where we are talking about tone. Okay, the tone unit. This and sentence or utterance. And we are going to talk as well about the graphic representation of a tone unit. We start with the first component, which is an obligatory component and the only obligatory component in an utterance of a tone unit, which is the tonic syllable. Every tone unit must have a tonic syllable, which is the syllable that carries the tone, i.e., the tonic or the TS or the tonic syllable is the only, as I said, obligatory component of the tone unit. It means the others being optional. The other elements are optional. As I have mentioned before as well, the TS is normally the last stressed syllable in the tone unit. Okay? However, in an utterance where we have an emphatic stress, it falls on that syllable which is emphasized. Now, What is important is to know how to represent a TS in a graphic representation. So, in the graphic representation of a tone unit, the TS is represented by a curved line. A curved line. Its direction depends on the type of the tone. So, we see together this graphic representation of the different or all the types that we are going to see in this lesson. So we start with the two falling tones. The low fall, for example, the low fall, we have a curved line starting from a mid-level to a very low level. Before I carry on, you notice that I have two parallel lines. Those lines, they stand for the upper and the lower limits of the pitch movement. Okay? The upper and the lower limits of our voice. So, we carry on. I said that the low fall is a curved line. It starts from a mid-level, as you notice, till a low level. However, the high fall, a curved line starts from a very high level to a low level. The two other rising tones, so when we want to represent them graphically, we start with the low rise. The low rise, it is a curved line as well, starting from a low level to a mid-level, a low level to a mid-level. However, the high rise, it starts from a mid-level and to a high level. So these are how we represent the TS in a graphic representation, all the different tones that we are going to see in this lesson. So the first element is the tonic syllable, which is an obligatory element, and it is represented by a curved line in the graphic representation. We carry on with another element, which is called the tail. The tail, what is the tail? The tail is any syllable, whether stressed or not, or any syllables, whether stressed or not, follow the tonic syllable, they are the tail of the tone unit. So, what is the tail? The tail, any syllables, stressed or not, which come after the TS, they are called the tail. In a simple falling tone, the syllables of the tail have a low level. In a simple falling tones, the syllables of the tail have a low level. It means they occur at a low level in the graphic representation. Whereas in a simple rising tone, the syllables of the tail, they have a mid to a high level tones. I mean, they occur at a mid to a high level in the graphic representation. So the rise begins in the TS and continues over the syllables of the tail. We look to the graphic representation of a tail. Here we have two tone units. We have the two parallel lines, and we just show the TS and what comes after it. We have not showed the other elements. So here, when a tail occurs in a low fall tone, so we have the TS, which is falling, and then we have a dot, a low dot, for example, and a low long dash. So the dot stands for an unstressed syllable, and the dash, the long dash, stands for a stressed syllable after the TS. I mean stressed by secondary stress. So it occurs, as you notice, at a low level. However, when the TS or the tone is a rising tone, whether high rise or low rise, you notice here that the tail occurs from a mid to a high level. So you notice that the dot here, it's in a mid level, and the syllables in the tail continue to occur, to rise over till the last syllable. So they occur at a mid to a high levels. This is how we represent the tail in a graphic representation after a falling tone and after a rising tone. So after a falling tone, both the high fall or the low fall, the tail occurs always at a low level. However, after a rising tone, the tail occurs from a mid to a high level. The next optional element is called the head. What is the head? If there are stressed syllables before the TS, the first stressed syllable in the tone unit is called the head. It normally has a high level. It means if a sentence starts with a stressed syllable, which is not the tone rather than the TS, this syllable occurs at a high level. And it is represented in a long dash in the graphic representation. Look to this graphic representation of an utterance or of a tone unit. The sentence is, John called me yesterday. John called me yesterday. So the TS is on the last lexical word, which is yesterday, in the last stressed syllable on yes, because it is a neutral statement. So the first stressed syllable is John. So John here is the head, and it is represented by a long dash at a high level. And then called, called is one syllable. It is stressed, and it occurs a little bit lower than the first one. Me is not stressed, so it is represented by a dot. And then the TS is yesterday. Yes, sorry. So it is from a mid to a low level. And then the tail here is today, the last part of yesterday. So here it is represented by two dots. So here we have seen an example of a head in a tone unit. So what is a head? A head is if there are any stressed syllable at the beginning of an utterance rather than the TS. Always it is optional. Now the next element, it's called the pre-head or PH. The pre-head. What is the pre-head? Any unstressed syllable before the first stressed syllable, which may be the head, or if there is no head, it is the TS. So, any unstressed syllable before the first stressed syllable constitute the pre-head of the tone unit. They are usually uttered at a low level in when we pronounce them, and they occur at a low level in the graphic representation. So, what is the pre-head? The pre-head is any unstressed syllables before the first stressed syllable in an utterance. So, the pre-head may be found in two environments. When there is a head, example, in a little less than an hour. So here, in this utterance, we have in a, which is the pre-head because they are unstressed. What is the first stressed syllable in this sentence? It is little. Is it the TS? No, it is the head because it's the first stressed syllable, and the TS is hour. However, it can occur when there is no head. Example, where we have just the TS. Example, in an hour, in an hour, we have in a, which is the prehead, which are unstressed syllables before the first stressed syllable. Here, it happens that the first stressed syllable is the TS. So they can occur before the TS. We notice together the graphic representation of those two examples. We start with the first example. In a little less than an hour. This is a normal statement. It means we will have a low fall tone. In a, so the utterance starts with unstressed syllables. So they are represented with two low dots in a, and they are called the prehead or PH. Little, 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 li is the first stressed syllable, and it is represented by a long dash at a high level. Till is not stressed, so it is represented by a dot. Less, long dash. Then an, two dots. The TS is hour. Hour. The TS is hour, so the first syllable of an hour. So the TS is from a mid-level to a low level, and the tail, the schwa at the end, it constitutes the tail at a low level. However, here in this second example, in an hour, where we don't have a head, we don't have any element, we have just the prehead and the TS at the tail. So in an hour, in an, two dots, and the TS is hour, from a mid curved line from a mid to a low level, and the tail is one low dot. Good. We have finished with the prehead. We move to the body, or B. So what is the body? As I said, those are all optional elements. The body, any syllables, whether stressed or not, which extend between the head and the TS, which is found, or which are found between the head and the TS, form the body of the tone unit. They normally form a regular step in descent, which starts from the high level tone of the head, each stressed syllable being a little lower than the preceding one, and any unstressed syllables being said at the same level as the preceding stress. So, what is the body again? The body is any syllables between, whether stressed or not, between the head and the TS. Any unstressed syllables, if found between the head and the TS. We look to this, we look to this example. We are in the prehead, the body, yes. We look to this graphic representation of a body, where we have a body, in an utterance where we have a body. The example is, I was trying to call you last night. I was trying to call you last night. So this is a normal statement where we have a low fall, so the TS is on the last lexical word, which is night. Now we start from the beginning of the sentence. They are unstressed syllables, so they are the prehead at the beginning of an utterance, so they are the prehead. They are represented by two low dots. Trying is the first lexical word, the first stressed word, so try will have a long dash and at a high level. ING will have a dot, so the try is the head because it is the first stressed syllable. And then ING of trying is not stressed, so it will be represented by a dot at the same level of, so any unstressed syllables after a stressed syllable, they are represented at the same level of the previous stressed syllable. So two dots for ING and for two. And then call is stressed syllable, so it is lower a little bit than the previous stressed syllable, so with a long dash, and then a dot for you at the same level with the call. And then last, which is a stressed syllable, a little bit lower than the previous stressed syllable. And then the TS, which is a curved line from a mid-level to a low level for the word night. So where is the body? We said that the body is any unstressed syllable between the head and the TS. So the body in this sentence is ing of ing, the ing form of trying to call you last. So this part constitutes the body of this sentence. As I said, the body is optional. We may find it in an utterance, we may not find it. Now, in this table, we have how all the tones, all the types of the tones. When we say level tones, we have level tones and moving tones, what we call level tones and moving tones. Level tones, we mean all the stressed syllable rather than the TS, and they are represented in a long dash. It may be high, it may be mid, it may be low. And it is represented by the tone mark is like the stress mark. However, the moving tones, they are the low fall, the high fall, they are all the low rise and the high rise. They are all represented graphically with a curved line. It depends on the type of the tone. And look to the tone marks that you may find in the TS. So those are the tone marks used for each tone. Now we start our practice, or we go to the lesson where we're gonna practice in which contexts, as I said previously, we use all this falling and rising tones. So we start with the simple falling tones. We said that we have two types of falling tones, the high fall and the low fall. We start with this example, a normal low fall. So we said that the low fall is used first in neutral statements or normal statements. Look to this example. Number 1, he's a good mechanic. This is a neutral statement. He is a good mechanic. The graphic representation of he is a good mechanic is as follows. So his so 2 low dots for his Good, the first stressed syllable, a high long dash. Mechanic from mechanic, so me is not stressed, so a dot. Cow, which carries the TS, which is a low fall, so a curved line from a mid to a low level. And the last syllable in mechanic constitutes the tail, so it is a low dot. However, we use the high fall in only one case where we have or when we want to show emphasis or excitement. Let us see this example. It is the same example but said in another tone. So at the beginning we said he is a good mechanic and it is neutral. But when we want to emphasize that he is a good mechanic, it means not a plumber or any other job. So he is a good mechanic. So here the emphatic stress falls on mechanic to mean that he is a good mechanic and not a plumber. So here, when we want to represent it, look to the graphic representation of 2 here. We have 2 dots like the previous one for his a high dash for good, a dot for me, and mechanic will be a low curved line from a high level to a low level, and a dot it is missing here for the last syllable in the word mechanic. Another example of a high fall, he is a good mechanic. He is a good mechanic. And you have between parentheses not a bad one. So what do we want to mean here? Is it a neutral statement? No, we have an emphasis to mean he is a good mechanic, not a bad one. So the TS falls on good, and mechanic will take a secondary stress. So here we are going to practice some sentences having the low fall. Low fall, it means they are neutral statements. So, number 1, John left. John left. So here the fall is on the last lexical word, on left. 2, John left the room. John left the room. So the fall here is on room, on the last lexical word, because it is a normal statement. Number 3, John left the other room. John left the other room. So the TS is on the last lexical word, which is room. Number 4, John left the other room in a mess. The TS is on the last lexical word, which is mess. And finally, number 5, John left the other room in an awful mess. So here mess, again, is the last lexical word, so it carries the TS. And here we have the graphic representation of sentence 5. So what do we have? We have John. John is the first stressed syllable, so it is the head, and it is represented by a high long dash. And then left, a little bit lower long dash. The, a dot at the same level as left. A of other, a long dash. The, a dot. And then a little bit lower room in a long dash. What else? Room. In a, 2 dots. Awful, a long dash and a dot. And finally, mess. It is a curved line from a mid to a low level. So we have here mess is the TS, and what comes between the head and the TS is the body. Here in this tone unit, we don't have a tail. Because we don't have syllables after the TS, and we don't have a pre-head. It means we don't have unstressed syllables before the head. Now we practice some sentences about the tail. So unstressed syllables after the TS, it means the tail. Again, what is the tail? The tail, any unstressed or stressed with a secondary stress syllables after the TS is called the tail. Look to this first sentence. Mary was sleeping. Look to the graphic representation. So, me will have a long dash, high long dash, re a dot, was a dot, sleeping, the TS is on slee, so curved line from mid to low level, and ping is a low dot. And where is the tail here? The tail is ping. However, in the second example, Mary was sleeping there. Mary was sleeping there. So here Mary, long dash, dot, was a high dot. Sleeping, slee is a curved line from a mid to a low level. Ping, a low dot, there a low long dash. Now we are going to practice together those sentences, and we are going to identify the tail in each sentence. Number 1, John's leaving. The tail is thing. Yes, because the TS is lee. 2, John's leaving, you know. Notice that here, you know, it's an extra information. It's an explanation. So usually when we have those kinds of explanations or additional phrases, they do not convey a meaning or add a meaning, and they do not belong to the main utterance. They are usually found in dialogues and they come after the main sentence. So they are called explanations and they belong to the tail. So John's leaving, you know. So the tail here is ving, you know. It's definite, you see. So the tail here is finite, you see. And finally, number 6, he is capable, I think. So here the tail is purple, I think, because the TS is on K. Now we move to see some examples where we have the pre-head. But what is, again, the pre-head? The pre-head is any unstressed syllables before the first stressed syllable in an utterance. Any unstressed syllables before the first stressed syllable in an utterance. We look to the first example. Here, we've been given our orders. We've been given our orders. Look to the right where we have the graphic representation of this utterance. So, we've been, we have 2 low dots. We've been, there are 2 unstressed syllables at the beginning of an utterance, so they constitute the head. We've been given. G is the first stressed syllable, so it is represented by a high long dash, then a high dot, our a high dot, orders where we have the TS, or curved line from a mid to a low, unders, which is the tail, a low dot. Another example, and so I want you to come. And so I want you to come. So here, and so I, they are unstressed syllables, so they are the pre-head and they are represented at a low level. Want, the first stressed syllable, high long dash. You, high dot, 2 high dot, because they are unstressed syllables. Come, curved line from a mid to a low level. Now we start, or we practice together some sentences where we have the pre-head. So, number 1, the boy showed them. The boy showed them. So the TS is showed, so the TS, the pre-head here is the. Number 2, and the boy showed them. The pre-head here is and the. Number 3, and so the boy showed them. The pre-head here and so the. Number 4, and therefore the boy showed them. The pre-head here is and. Sentence 5, but the girl did it. The pre-head here is but the. 6, nevertheless the girl did it. Here we don't have a pre-head because we don't have an unstressed syllable before the first stressed syllable, which is nevertheless. So we don't have a pre-head. And finally, number 7, but nevertheless the girl did it. We have a pre-head here and it is but. Drill 4, explanations in dialogues. I said that in some dialogues, I repeat, we have talked about this part before. So, in some, let's read what we have here in the paper. The falling tone, as I said, is the basic tone for statements in English, but sometimes a statement is a part of a conversation or is a quotation. So, because it is a part of a statement, it is followed by an explanation like he said, he answered, he asked, he shouted, etc. So those extra explanations or additional phrases, they come after the tonic syllable. So they constitute the tail. Such additional phrases or explanations, they are said after the TS And when the TS is a falling tone, so they are said at a very low pitch. In this part of the last, in the last part of this page 1, we have short definition for all the components of the tone unit. So we have the TS, which is an obligatory element, or the tonic syllable. We have the head, an optional element. The head is the first stressed syllable of the tone unit. We can represent it by a capital H. The body as well, an optional. The body is all the syllables, stressed or not, between the head and the TS. We can represent it by capital B. The pre-head is any unstressed syllables before the first stressed syllable, and we can represent it by PH, capital PH. And finally, the tail, any syllables that follow the TS. We can represent it by capital T. So we go to page 2, where we have examples in which we have explanations in dialogues. So the first example, I have found it, he said. I've, low dot, found, which is the TS, curved line from mid to low. It, low dot, he, low dot, said will take a secondary stress, long dash. So the tail here, he said is an explanation, so it is part of the tail. So it, he said, is the tail. The second example, I found it, he said with a smile. So it, he said with a smile, is the tail, because he said with a smile is an explanation in a dialogue or in a conversation. Now we are going to see other examples and identify the tail in each sentence where we have explanations. And they all have a low fall tone. So number 1, he's there. So always the main sentence or main utterance is he's there. But we have different explanations. So number 1, he's there, she said. Where is the tail? She said. Number 2, he's there, the little girl said. The tail is the little girl said. Number 3, he's there, the little girl said quite firmly. So the little girl said quite firmly is the tail. He's there, the little girl said quite firmly and pointed. In this sentence, the tail is the little girl said quite firmly and pointed. So always explanations in conversations or in dialogues, they are extra information, so they belong to the tail. Now we carry on to practice the low fall. So we said that the low fall, we have seen that the low fall is used in your normal statements. And now the low fall is used, number 2, is used in normal WH questions. So we practice together those WH questions. Number 1, who's there? Who's there? So it's a normal WH question. So the low fall is on the last lexical word, which is there. Number 2, what's the time? What's the time? A falling tone in the last lexical word, which is time. Number 3, when did they come? So here come is the last lexical word and it carries the TS. 5, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell us? So tell is the last lexical word, it carries the TS. Who's there? She asked. She asked is an explanation, so there is the last lexical word. 7, which one's for sale? He wanted to know. He wanted to know is an explanation, so it belongs to the tail, and the TS is sale. And the last sentence, sentence number 8, how much does this cost, please? So he asked the girl in the shop. Please, he asked the girl in the shop is the tail and the TS is cost. So again, the TS is the low fall is found in WH questions, in normal WH questions. At the beginning of this lesson, we said that low fall also occurs in orders or commands. So we practice the orders and commands with a low fall. Number 1, sit down, don't move, let's go. So here, always we use a low fall in the last lexical word. Number 2, take the milk, don't be late, let's repeat it. So here, milk, late, and Pete are the TS of those utterances. 3, fetch my coat. Don't forget them. Let's be careful. They are all orders, and the TS, which is a low fall, occurs in the last stressed syllable in the utterance. Number 4, just don't look back. Let's go of the girl. So here, back and girl are the last lexical stressed words. 5, just let me alone, he shouted. He shouted is an explanation. So the order is just let me alone. Alone is the last lexical word, so it carries the low fall tone. So we have finished with orders and commands. We said also that the low fall is used as well in strong yes-no questions. What do we mean by strong yes-no questions? They are similar to orders. So they are yes-no questions, but they are orders. In the form, they are yes-no questions, but they are similar to orders. We are going to see those examples, or we are going to read those examples once as a normal. As you know, that normal yes-no questions will have a rise in tone. But when they are strong, they will have a low falling tone. So if I'm asking a normal question, I will say, will you go? This is normal. But when I want to make it strong yes-no question and ordering him or her, I will say, will you go? Will you go? So here I make it falling. It has the form of a yes-no question, but I'm ordering him. It is an order. So the form is a yes-no question, but the intention is an order. You may ask me how we know that this is not a normal WH question and it is a strong yes-no question. You will have between parentheses ordering him or saying an order. You will have a clarification between between parentheses if it is a strong yes-no question. Number 2, well, can you find it? So here I'm going to carry on reading the utterances as a strong yes-no questions. So 2, well, can you find it? So it is a falling tone at the end of the sentence. 3, come on, here it's an order. Tell me, an order. Will you do it? Here it's a strong yes-no question. It is a yes-no question in form, but it means an order. Will you do it? Number 4, did you help them? Did you help them? I'm not asking them a normal yes question, but I'm ordering him to answer me. Did you help him or them? Number 5, please tell me, an order, did you help them? It is a strong yes-no question and it is on help. Number 6, is it true or not? Is it true or not? So here I'm asking him or her a strong yes-no question where I use the low fall. And finally 7, did he come or did he not? Tell me now. Did he come or did he not? So here it's a strong yes-no question where I use the low fall. Finally, The low fall is used in question tags where I ask for confirmation. So when the speaker is almost sure of what he's saying and asks the listener to confirm the information, the normal intonation pattern consists of two falls, one on the statement part and one on the question tag. So question tags, usually in question tags, we have two parts, the statement and the question tag. So we will have a fall in the normal statement and a fall in the question tag. So let's practice with these examples. Number 1, you've read the book, haven't you? So here we will have two tone units because we have a normal statement and then we have haven't you, which is the question tag. So you've read the book, haven't you? So we have two falls here on the statement and on the question tag, which is haven't you. Number 2, he wasn't present. Was he? Was he? So on of present and was of he. And finally, she arrived yesterday, didn't she? She arrived yesterday, didn't she? So two falls, the first on yesterday and the second on didn't. And here is the graphic representation of the last sentence, which is she arrived yesterday, didn't she? So here she will have two low dots because they are unstressed. Arrived, long high dash. Yesterday we have yes, which is the TS, the first falling one in the statement, from a mid to a low. Today, two low dashes, and we draw a vertical line to indicate the end of the first tone unit, and then we move to the second tone unit, which is didn't she. So didn't, the TS is on did, a curved line from mid to low, and dot she a low dot. So here we have two tone units because it is a question tag. Okay, so here we have finished with normal or simple falling tones. We still have the simple rising tones, and we are going to see where do we use, or in which context we use the simple rising tones. So we have two simple rising tones, the high rise and the low rise. We start with the high rise. As mentioned earlier, the high rise is used in normal yes-no questions. So, not strong, but normal yes-no questions. So we practice the following examples. The first one is, did they like it? Did they like it? So here, look to the graphic representation. Did, low dot, they, a little bit low dot, higher a little bit than the first dot, and then like from a mid to a high level. So curved line for like, and then it. Did they like it? The next example, is he coming? Is he coming? So is he, two dots, coming, curved line from mid-level to high level for come, and ing form, it has the dot, high dot. We practice those examples together. The first example, number 1, is this yours? Is this yours? So we use the high rise. Number 2, shall we go? Number 3, have they finished? Have they finished? Number 4, did she get there on time? So here we have the graphic representation for this sentence. Did she get there on time? So did, low dot, she, low dot, get, high long dash, there, a long dash a little bit lower than the first one on a dot on the same level, and then time, which carries the TS. Here it's a high rise, so from a mid and rises to a high level. And then we carry on the sentences. We have sentence 5 or question 5. Did you see it? Did you see it? So it's a high rise. Question 6. Shouldn't they be working here? Shouldn't they be working here? So high rise, the TS is on the last lexical word. And finally, number 7. Does John speak Japanese? Does John speak Japanese? So it's a high rise. So the first use of the high rise is on normal yes/no questions. The second use, we move to the second use, we use a high rise when we have statements in form but a question in intonation. Statements in form but a question in intonation. What do we mean? They are statements in the form, it means subject, verb, complement. They do not have the form of a question, but the intonation we use an intonation of a question. So we are going to compare this statement to the same statement, but once as statement in form and in intonation, but in the second time, statement in form, but a question in intonation where we need to use the high rise. So the statement is, he did it. He did it. Here it's a normal statement. I used a low fall. A statement in form, he, subject, verb, complement, but a statement in intonation as well. I used a low fall because it is a normal statement. But when I say, he did it, he did it, so here it has the form of a statement. He did it. But I used an intonation of a question and I put a question mark at the end. So here it is the same statement but said in different intonations. Here we use this type of statements or kind of statements they suggest surprise or desire for explanation or confirmation. Okay, so those types of statements, either we are surprised or we have a desire for explanation or confirmation. Here we're gonna practice the same sentence once as a statement and then as a statement in form and question in intonation. Number 1. Here. Number 1. He'll do it. He'll do it. It's a statement. Nothing surprising, no need for confirmation. He'll do it. It's a normal statement. But when I say he'll do it, I use the same statement, but I use a different intonation, which is the intonation of questions. So he'll do it, so a high rise, because here I'm either surprised or I need a confirmation. You may ask me how we differentiate if we have the same statement. How we know that it is a statement or a normal statement, or it is a statement in form and a question in intonation. Simply, you have a question mark at the end. You have a question mark at the end because it is a statement in form, but at the end you will have a question mark. Number 2. She came yesterday. So here I use the low fall. It's a normal statement. But when I say she came yesterday, so here I'm surprised. And I use the high rise. And I have a question mark at the end. Number 3. I told you about it. I told you about it. Normal statement. However, when I say I told you about it, so here I'm surprised as well. So I use the high rise. Number 4, it's impossible. Here it's a simple statement. But when I say it's impossible, so here statement in form, but a question in intonation, because I want you to convince me. Number 5, she's gone to her mother. She's gone to her mother. A normal statement where I convey an information. But when I'm surprised, I would rather say, she's gone to her mother. She's gone to her mother. How strange. It's really so. Is it really so? So here I'm not convinced. Maybe she's not okay with her mother. That's why I'm surprised and I ask for repetition and we use the high rise. Finally, in the last utterance, I see you tomorrow. Normal statement. But when I say, I see you tomorrow, here, I'm not sure or I'm surprised. So I need to use the high rise. So those are statements in form, but a question in intonation. Again, how we know this? Because they end with a question mark, so we know that they are statements in form, but a question in intonation. Finally, we use the high rise in strong WH questions. Strong, not normal. So what do we mean by strong WH questions? Here they are questions where we ask for repetition, either because we didn't hear or we are surprised. So we ask for repetition. They are not normal normal WH questions, but they are strong WH questions. We practice together strong and ordinary WH questions. So the ordinary WH questions, we have a low fall, but when it is a strong WH question where we are surprised and we ask for repetition, here we use the high rise. And another important point I want to add, in strong WH question, the TS falls on the WH word. Again, in strong WH questions, the TS falls on the WH word. It means on what or how or why or who or when. It depends which WH word does the word have or consist of. So strong WH question, the tone starts at the very beginning on the WH word. We practice together the same question once as an ordinary question, WH question, where we will use the low fall, and once as a strong WH question where we are surprised, we ask for repetition, and we use the high rise and the TS is on the WH word. The first one, why did she come? Here it's an ordinary question. Why did she come? And the TS is on the last lexical word, which is come. But when it is a strong WH question, we say, why did she come? So here we ask for repetition. Either we didn't hear, we ask for repetition, or we are surprised for the reason she is coming for it. So you notice here that the TS is not on the last lexical word, but it is on Y, on the WH word. And you notice a high dot on the last lexical word or any stressed word after the TS. It means we put a dot on all the stressed syllables which follow the rising tone. Okay, we put a high dot above all the stressed syllables which follow the TS in a rising tone. Another point I want to add, you may ask me how we differentiate between a normal WH question and a strong WH question. If we give you a normal WH question, we give you the question as it is. But if we mean it is a strong WH question, we will put between parentheses asking for repetition, or we are surprised. So we will show you, we will write a comment near the question to show you that it is a strong WH question. So we carry on. The next question, what did you say? What did you say? Here it's a normal, but when it is strong, I would say, what did you say? What did you say? So here the high rise is on what, and say will take, it is a stressed syllable after the TS, so we'll take a dot because here we have a rising tone, only in rising tones. Next question, how does it work? So a simple, normal, ordinary WH question. We ask about a machine, how does it work? But if we don't hear, or we didn't hear, or if we are surprised on the way this machine works, we may say, how does it work? How does it work? So here the TS is on how, and work, it is stressed, and it has a high dot. Next question, how much does it cost? I'm asking a normal WH question to ask about the price. How much does it cost? But if I'm surprised about the cost, which is maybe too expensive, I would rather say, how much does it cost? How much does it cost? So here, how will take the TS, and it is a high rise. Next question, who told you that? Who told you that? A normal question. But when I know the person, so I want to confirm, so I will say, who told you that? Who told you that? So I'm surprised, and the TS will be on who. Finally, the last question, when did she leave? When did she leave? A normal WH question. But when I hear the time, which is surprising, so I would rather say, when did she leave? When did she leave? So here it's a high rise, and the TS is on when. I want you to notice with me the graphic representation of both questions when they are normal, when it is normal, and when it is strong WH question. So when did she leave? So here when, it's a WH word, and as you know, WH words are lexical words, so they need to be stressed. So in normal WH question, it is stressed word, so it is a high dash. Did, not stressed, dot, high dot, she, a high dot, and leave, which is a low fall, last lexical word in WH, in normal WH questions, so it is from mid to low level. However, when it is a strong WH question, so the TS is the WH word. So when here we'll take a curved line from a mid to a high level because it is the TS. And what comes after is the tail. So a dot for did. So a rising, the tail starts to rise to a high level. So did, high dot, she, a high dot, and leave, a high long dash. So here is the difference between ordinary and strong WH questions. We have finished with the high rise. We said that the high rise is used in normal yes, no question, in statements in form but a question in intonation, and finally in strong WH questions. We move to the last page where we practice together the low rise, and we compare it with the other tones. So the low rise is used in, as I said previously, in statements where we want to show uncertainty. Statements where we want to show uncertainty. So, in the following statements, you will hear the same sentence 3 times. First, with a low fall. Second, which is B, with a low rise, and finally with a high rise, which is C. The tonic, notice that the tonic syllable is always in the last lexical word. So we start the sentences together. It is the same sentence, but each time we pronounce it in different tone. So, number 1. I said number 1, A is a low fall. It means it's a normal statement. So, he told the girl. He told the girl. B, I'm going to use the low rise where I want to show uncertainty or incomplete part of a sentence, etc. So I will say, he told the girl. So here I'm uncertain if the listener will be pleased with what I'm going to say, or maybe the sentence is not complete. For example, he told the girl, but he didn't tell the boy. So here maybe the sentence is not complete. In C, I'm going to pronounce the utterance using a high rise, where it's a statement in form but question in intonation, where I'm going to be surprised. So I'm gonna say, he told the girl. So here I'm surprised. He told the girl. Good. Number 2, A. This is the man. Normal statement, low fall. B. This is the man. So here it's a low rise. Maybe the sentence is not complete, or the listener will not be pleased with what I'm going to say. C. This is the man. This is the man. So here I'm surprised, and I use a high rise. 3. A. It costs a lot of money. Low fall, normal statement. B. It costs a lot of money. So here it's a low rise. C. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. So here a high rise, and I'm surprised. Number 4. I want you to come to London. I want you to come to London. Low fall. B. I want you to come to London. So here, I want you to come to London. So here it's a low rise. And C, where I'm going to use a high rise, I want you to come to London. So here I'm surprised I used the high rise. Number 5. She wants you to stay in Paris. Low fall, normal statement. B. She wants to stay in Paris. So here a low rise. And finally C. She wants to stay in Paris. So here I'm surprised. And always the TS is on the last lexical word. We move on in the lesson. So here I'm going to practice the low rise alone. So number 6. He told the girl. So here it's a low rise, but he didn't tell the boy. In girl, we use the low rise because the sentence is not complete. He told the girl, but he didn't tell the boy. At the end, because it's a normal statement, we use the low fall. Number 7. This is the man. So here maybe the sentence is not complete, or we have a doubt. Number 8. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. So maybe I'm advising you about this. I hope you don't mind. Okay? Maybe I'm convincing you not to buy this thing because it costs a lot of money. Number 9, sing us a song. Sing us a song. So here it's a desire to persuade someone. Sing us a song. 10. Please come. So here the same thing. Please come. So here I'm persuading someone to come. And finally, you didn't tell me about that. So here I'm objecting. You should have told me. So here I'm not pleased. You didn't tell me about that. I'm not pleased about what you did. The next context in which we use the low rise, as we have stated earlier, it is in polite requests or polite questions. In polite requests. So we practice together the following polite requests. Contrary to orders where we use a low fall, in polite requests we use a low rise. So, number 1, put it down, put it down. Number 2, let's go home. So here I'm saying a polite request. Number 3, tell him to wait. Number 4, let me see that. Let me see that. Number 5, don't do that. Don't do that. Number 6, don't use too much. Don't use too much. Number 7, don't use too much sugar. Don't use too much sugar. Number 8, don't use too much of the sugar, please. Don't use too much of the sugar, please. 9, what's your name? What's your name? And finally, here, both are 9 and 10 are polite questions. So, what's your name and where did you find it? Where did you find it? Great. So, we have finished with polite requests where we use the low rise. Finally, the last context in which we use the low rise, we use it when we have a list of items. So when we have a list of items, all the items will carry or will have a low rise, except the last item will take a falling tone. So when we have a list of items, all the items will have a tone, will have a high rise, and the last item will have a low fall. So the examples. If someone asks me about the days where I practice sport, so I will answer Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you notice that I have used a low rise in all the elements, except the last element. I used a low fall on Friday because it is at the end of the utterance. Another example where I state numbers. 1, 7, 19, 22, and 36. So here the fall is only on the last item, which is 36. Number 1, numbers as well. 1, if someone asks you to count till 7, for example, so you would rather say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here the fall is on 7. Another example, number 2, Smith, Jones, Brown, Evans, Williams, and Morgen. So here, all the elements will have a low rise. However, the last element will have a low fall to indicate that the sentence has finished. 3, or the last example, get me some apples, some pears, a few plums, and a bunch of bananas. So here, apples, pears, plums will have a low rise. However, the last element will have a low fall, which is bananas. We have finished our lesson. Thank you.